reality is this doesn't work if you don't do the work. That being said, if you do the work and you stay consistent, you will be successful.
I tried to create a franchise system, and it didn't require a lot of love for the thing, like landscaping, like who really loves cutting grass? But it required somebody on the physical disciplines of dealing with rain, sleet, snow, weather permitting. That was like the grit iron that would make a great franchisee. Welcome to Outsource to Profits. I have a fantastic guest. Erin, do you mind saying hi to the audience? Tell everybody what you do and how you serve the world.
Man, I am excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity, Jamie. My name is Erin Locks. I'm the CEO and founder of the National Academy of Athletics. I was told the other day, Jamie, you'll love this, that I'm an overnight success. After 4 decades of doing this, I am an overnight success. Thank you very much. We are the National Academy of Athletics. We partner with recreation departments and schools to bring recreational sports programs back to the community, and we do everything in partnership. So right now we're franchising, and we're finding amazing people that have an interest in blending their concept and love for what we do to make sure they have a major impact on the communities we serve.
Well, I definitely have a question about the business model. I'm going to frame this through a story. And a lot of people don't know this, that I actually built a franchise system in my 20s. It didn't take off. We'll call it the franchisor worked, the single original business, but franchising it didn't. So there was a green movement in the later 2000s. We'll call it like 2006, 2007, 2008. That was the world was really starting to think about going green at that time. And I had always owned landscaping companies through high school and university. And I had the idea of the first zero emissions landscaping at the residential level, landscaping business. So I formulated a partnership with 2 other guys, and it was smart cars pulling lithium-ion battery-powered lawnmowers and whippersnippers. And in our first year, we did $300,000, and we started building the system that would be then franchisable.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive into this of what is the heart and soul of what makes a great franchisee, and are they going to have the same tenacity to do the heavy lifting that it took to make the Toronto market, the first system, successful. So actually, before we dive into what makes a good franchisee and how do you identify them, I actually just genuinely curious, where is the gap? So I live in a community called Oakville, Ontario, which is a neighborhood in Toronto. Okay. So you go to local communities or local schools. What are they not providing from a sports facilities perspective that you provide? Because I didn't even realize that this was an opportunity.
Yeah, it's not just an opportunity. We're solving part of the epidemic. The reality is kids play less sports than they used to. Back even in the 90s, 9 out of 10 kids would sign up to play at least one team sport a year. And now we're looking at it's less than 5 out of 10, right? And the reason is there's less access to recreational sports programs through rec centers and schools in the communities. And what has happened is there's been a shift towards elite, club, travel, specialization, because you know what? Jamie, your son is 9. You know what? We're going to get him a college scholarship. So we're going to get him playing one sport year round and the whole deal. And what happens is these kids burn out after a couple of years and they quit, where it used to be kids would play maybe till 13 or 14 and then decide, okay, I don't really want to compete in high school. Now kids are quitting and getting burned out at 10 years old. And so they need the recreational sports opportunity to play for the love of the game, where it's a JOY instead of a JOB. And that's where the National Academy of Athletics comes in.
This makes complete sense. There's a great interview you can find on YouTube from Wayne Gretzky. And they interview Wayne and they say, like, what made you the best? And he said, here is where the failure is in the current NHL. And that on April 1, he's like, my dad took a box and I took my skates, the puck, the stick, the helmet, threw it in a box. And I literally wouldn't even look at that thing. And in that same box was my bat, my glove, my helmet. And I switched instantaneously to baseball. And then I would dive around and go, as most hockey players do, they dive around and golf throughout the summer. And then on September 1, like as school started, the box transitioned again. And what he said is too many kids are playing hockey as a job, and this is why they never have 20-year careers in the NHL, because they never develop like the art and the love of the game. And it's interesting. I see it in my own kids who are in extreme deep levels of downhill skiing and water skiing.
Okay.
They don't do any other sports. They travel globally to do these things.
Wow.
But that's all they do. And that's a mantra, it seems, amongst most of their friends. So
Jamie, the child's body is an all-terrain vehicle. They have to learn to drive it. And if we only put them in one thing, that's like taking a Jeep, put it on the freeway in low gear and just driving. And okay, no, they got to go off road. They got to fall down. They got to be pushed to fail, learn resiliency. Sometimes they're going to be the best player and they're going to learn leadership. Sometimes they're going to suck and they got to learn to do the work to get better. They learn empathy, all these factors that we want them to have a chance to learn that we learned as kids through sports. Kids aren't getting this. That's why, I'll be honest, the National Academy of Athletics has boomed to over 325 communities. And I've got business cards and stacks of people that want us to come to these cities, to come to these schools for this purpose. And I actually saw the interview with Mr. Gretzky because he's the best, but it's so true, right? I mean, if you made me eat steak 365 days a year, I'd become a vegan. I like my steak, man. So let's make sure that kids get all these different things, art, music on top of different sports, because that's when it really thrives.
So this is fantastic. This is what we're going to focus today's episode on, is almost like the talent acquisition. How do you identify a great franchisee? And for those listening, you could be in a business that you're thinking of creating a franchising model. So that could be the learning episode here. Or as well, you're considering an investment into a franchisor and you're considering, how would you deploy that capital? So here's the question that I have, and play with me on this one, because as I mentioned, I tried to create a franchise system, and it didn't require a lot of love for the thing, like landscaping, like who really loves cutting grass? But it required somebody on the physical disciplines of dealing with rain, sleet, snow, weather permitting. That was like the grit iron that would make a great franchisee. I see something in what you're talking about. You have to play both the commercial side of growing relationships in the community and growing up a business,
right?
But then also sports psychologist at the same time. So can you now describe, how do you identify in a market? Let's maybe first talk about the market. How do you identify a new market to go into, like a community or a city? And then two, what makes a great franchisee?
Okay, so let's unpack it piece by piece, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of ideas here.
Yeah, I got ideas. So first, the territory, right? What makes a good territory, right? So what we found in order to make it a solid territory is when you said, Jamie, I'm in this city and I'm interested in territory, we have literally gone through with our systems and checked to find out not just rooftops, economics, socioeconomics of the area. We look at how many schools, elementary schools. We go through all of the components and we pull all of the data. And we look at that and see, okay, does it make sense to make this work? First of all, from a financial standpoint, is there enough rooftops? Is there enough opportunity in a territory to make that work? So that's the first piece.
And what is that good fit? Is it lower socioeconomics or higher?
You want the exact? I'll break it down for you.
So, yeah, I mean, like this.
Inside secrets, right? So if the community is in the top 3% economically, we don't do very well there. And the reason for that is because the people that are making the top 3%, their kids are specialized, elite, and not only that, they probably have personal training. They have the whole deal. They can do all of that. Okay?
This totally makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't fit us. The other one is if they're in the bottom 16%. Now, 16%, and if you're in that, I apologize that we just can't come there right now, although we actually are finding where some governments are asking us to come and do programs that are funded, so we can. But the bottom 16%, that's where a parent has to make the decision between I've got to go to work, I've got no one to watch my child, I've got no assistance in the community, and I have to make the decision, do I put clothing on their back, Or do I sign
buy a
them
baseball glove? Yeah.
Right? Exactly. So that doesn't work very well for us. That being said, we have stepped into a lot of those communities, especially in the last 12 months, 13 months, where we're helping out a lot of government, especially in California, believe it or not, where they have some lower income areas that the government has said, we need to fund this program. And we're actually coming in and facilitating for the schools. We're even running physical education where they can't afford PE teachers. My staff goes in and run physical education.
Huh. Amazing.
So that's the territory piece, right, in terms of what fits. And then in terms of who we're looking for, we get a wonderful group that go to nationalacademyathletics.com, got to throw commercially, right? And they look and find out about the franchise. They say, man, I'm really interested in this. And then we have the conversation. So my team is looking for people that want to blend an entrepreneurial spirit, right, that have played sports at least to a level where they've competed. They don't play college and they don't play high school varsity, but you know what, Jamie? They have to have competed and learned that when they get knocked down to be able to get themselves back up.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a big factor. Male, female, doesn't matter, whatever. So entrepreneurial spirit, a love of sport, playing, whatnot. Doesn't matter what their sport is. Doesn't really matter. Just something that they've got a little bit of competitive spirit, right? Because that's important. And then the other piece is that they're willing to blend that with understanding that we've taken the last 5.5 years, all the good stuff of my 4 decades working for John Wooden and Pat Riley with the Lakers and George Karl with the Warriors and Dusty Baker and all these amazing coaches, and took these systems and developed it into our intranet so that you or anybody that says, now I've got this spirit and I want to do this, I'm ready to go, I can follow the system. Right? So now you've got to blend your entrepreneurial spirit, creativity, want to go do it, your competitive nature, because you want to go out there and meet people and develop relationships and do that, right? And then you can follow our system. And those that are following our system and putting those 3 blends together, they're having huge success. And they're having a major impact on the kids in their community. And that's the bonus, right? Because then you're doing, purpose and passion, and they have profit. What's better than that?
And this is, I find this fascinating. So this sounds very much like my business has 60 employees. We're growing, multiple hundreds within a year or two. And now I'm starting to grow up my mid-manager, my manager levels. And I'm going through these trials and tribulations where I know my ideal customer profile. I know my buyer persona. It's like, your territories, what ideal looks like. Yeah. And now I'm starting to think about how I develop tests, assessments to actually, what's that saying, sift through the wheat through the chaff, or whatever that saying is. How do you prevent a franchisee comes to you, a potential franchisee comes to you, waving a check in their hand?
Yeah.
I want to do good for my community, but they don't, on the surface, maybe they tell you stories that they meet your ideal customer profile, but how do you test for grit and tenacity and the willingness to grow something like this?
Well, Nancy Reagan said, just say no, right? Joking, but seriously, we do say no. I think the answer is there's several steps. One, they go through our playbook. They download our playbook from the website. They take a look at it, and then they answer the initial questions with the screener, which is one of the team members. After they go through the first initial screener, then they go to meet with the next group, and the next group has formulated questions. And we're asking same question, different ways to find out, are we consistent with our answers, right? Because the reality is this doesn't work if you don't do the work. That being said, if you do the work and you stay consistent, you will be successful. We've proven that because every one of them is. So that's the first 2 things. The third thing is they do discovery days. They actually come to us. They go to our Northern California, we're up here in the wine country, and we take them to sites and they visit with franchisees. They visit with our admin staff, our executive staff. They visit with sites. They actually go and watch physical education. They watch classes and programs. Then they come back in the office and we have the conversations about, we have some dinner and we hang out a little bit and we get to know them on a human level. So we go through the process. And then once that's all done, then there's the last step, which is they have to jump through the hoops of, are you willing to? Are you willing to? Are you willing to? Are you willing to? And once they go through those 4, then we know that now we're ready for the last step, which is go through the FDD, which you all understand that. And then 7 days later, we're ready to go.
Amazing. What has been, I mean, it sounds like just the amount of work that it took you to identify what markets become most fruitful. When you told me bottom 16% and top 3%, I thought, oh my God, you've obviously been through enough trials and tribulations to have whittled down that ideal customer profile. But if you were to give advice to those that want to franchise, what have maybe 1, 2, or 3 pieces of advice that you've learned in 40 years to say, hey, if you're going to do this, be prepared for X, Y, and Z?
Yeah. So first thing I would say is, if you're going to do this, make sure that you have absolute clarity on your B2B and your B2C. Because the business, I'm about strategic partnership. I'm a team guy, right? That's what I do, Coach Locks, right? So the first thing is to make sure that you have strategic partnerships that have built within your own team and systems, so that everything you do, there's always the question to go back to, right? If we do this, so if you said, well, this isn't working, Jamie, I'm going to come to you with 3 questions. Did you do this? What happened? Did you do this? What happened? Did you do this? And if you look at it and go, wait, I didn't do this, then we go, okay, let's go back. And so I use Stephen Covey's stuff, seek to understand before being understood, all the time. So when someone says this isn't working, we go back and we go back to the steps. And so having a system with absolute clarity of exactly what we do to help people be successful, number one. So you got to have a system, and it has to be replicated. What I always tell everybody, when I started the company, my first camp was with a guy named Magic Johnson, right? And I was really clear on what exactly he wanted. And I said, okay, I'm duplicating that. Now I had to replace myself as we got bigger with somebody else. And as a franchisor, you have to be willing to franchise or to replace yourself multiple times. Someone's got to deal with the financials, because right now you're probably dealing with that, right? You have to be kind of a unicorn. You got to deal with the in front of the camera, behind the camera, the editing, the financials, the advertising, the social media, the how do you
systematically replace yourself in every one of them.
You have to be willing and able to have a system, because Jamie, if I said to you, hey, I want you to come in and do this, you're, yeah, I can totally do it. But if I said, here's a blank piece of paper, that's not a system. Right? That's an idea and a whim. So to me, the biggest thing would be to have a system that can be replicated, that you can give to somebody that they could do. If you're talking about cutting lawn, someone has to know, where do they start? Right? What do they do with the trim? All of those pieces have to be spelled out specifically so that they can do it without you being there. And if you can't do that, by the way, have the trust that your systems and trainings are able to empower them to do it without you there, don't you dare franchise, because you're going to set yourself up and them up for failure.
This was fantastic advice. How do people get a hold of you if they're interested in exploring a franchise opportunity?
The easiest is to go to nationalacademyofathletics.com. Click on franchising. There's videos. There's all sorts of information. Go. You know what? Let's connect on LinkedIn or Facebook. Are great, because there's lots of stuff going on there. And if someone's interested in having a major impact on the kids in their community, doing something that they absolutely love, like I don't know about you, but I get excited to get up every day and go to work. If you want that experience, you know what? Let's check it out and see. Maybe there's an opportunity. nationalacademyofathletics.com is probably the easiest place to find us.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Jamie. Thanks, everybody. Be well.
Thank you.